Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down a new strategy for Reworked Diana that's having a lot of success right now over in Korea in the higher elos. I still got a bunch of Akali and Vladimir codes to give away for their new skins, True Damage Akali, and then I think it's Nightbringer Vlad is the other one, and I'll be giving those away on stream as this video goes up, so if you guys are interested, link is down in the description below. If we jump into the video now, the new setup that is becoming a lot more popular on Diana in this patch is going for an Ardent Sensor Rush. Now you might ask, why would you go for an Ardent Sensor Rush? Doesn't the passive on it only apply if you're healing or if you're shielding a teammate? And that's actually not the case anymore. There's a bug right now on Ardent Sensor to where it's actually going to apply the passive to yourself with your own heals or your own shield. So it actually works really nicely with the Diana W. Now, I'm not too sure how long this bug has been in the game, but if you go to the Ardent Sensor wiki, as of patch 9.15, it does say that Ardent Sensor now also triggers when used on yourself. So it's been in the game for at least a couple patches here. It could have been in the game for even longer, I'm not too sure, but it's really good for new Diana because it's going to allow you to apply that attack speed and the extra on-hit damage from the Ardent Sensor, which synergizes really nicely with her kit. So Ardent Sensor, it costs 2,300 gold, and it pretty much gives Diana everything that she would want in an item besides maybe some HP. It's going to give you ability power, CDR, it's going to give you mana regen, movement speed, the on-hit damage, the extra attack speed there. So for such a cheap item, giving you all of these stats are just so good for Diana, and it allows her to hit a very nice one-item spike. Now, it's not even the Ardent Sensor Rush that is unique to a lot of high elo Diana players in this patch. The whole build setup and the rune setup is also pretty unique for 9.24. So two different build paths that are very popular with this Ardent Sensor Rush is either going for a Nashor second into a Zhonya's or going for a Protobelt second and then Zhonya's. Both build setups for Diana are perfectly viable, and I would be looking to swap things up depending on how the game is going and depending on the team composition. So the Protobelt second there is going to be really nice for the champion, and it is the one that actually most high elo Diana players are preferring in this patch. A lot of players aren't even going for the Nashor's Tooth build because if you go for the Ardent Sensor, you're going to be a lot more squishier, especially if you go like Ardent into Nashor's, you're going to be very squishy there. So if you're looking to team fight, I probably would not go for this setup. If you're looking to split push, if that's going to be your main objective, if that's your win condition, then the Ardent into Nashor's there is going to be fine for you. But if you're snowballing really hard in the early game, if you're just going to be able to team fight and end a game pretty quickly, then I would be looking to prioritize going for that Protobelt second to give you the extra HP and allow you to be a lot more durable in those team fights. For your third item there on Diana, I would look to build Zhonya's pretty much every single game. It's just such a good item for her because you're going to be looking to dive the backline in team fights a lot of the time with Diana, and by going for the Zhonya's there, it just allows for you to stall time for your team to help you follow up. It allows you to stall time for your cooldowns. Diana's an assassin who, once she gets into a fight, there's no way she really gets out unless she does have flash, so by going the Zhonya's there, it just really helps her out with that. And then for runes on Diana right now, pretty much every single high elo player is just going Conquered. That looks to be the #1 rune right now on her for this patch, and very few players are actually going for Electrocute right now. You're going to see Electrocute a lot more for lower elo Diana players. They're still running that. Newer Diana players are also still running the Electrocute, but especially with this Ardent Sensor build, the Conquer synergizes very well with Diana. The synergy that you get by going Conquer and by building the Ardent Sensor is great for you because the Ardent Sensor is going to increase your heals and your shields by 10%, so you're going to be getting more sustain coming out of that Conquer. You're also going to be getting more sustain if you go for something like that Ravenous Hunter, so just really good synergies with Ardent and with these runes on Diana. The new Conquer is also just a little bit better overall for Diana because she's a lot more focused on that skirmish. She's not as focused on just like one-shotting a target in a team fight. Her assassination potential is definitely weaker with this reworked Diana, so by running the Conqueror, it allows her to just stay a little bit more healthy in those team fights. It allows her to deal a lot more consistent damage, and because you do have the ability to stack it up extremely quickly in those mid to late game fights, like once you jump in with Diana, use all your abilities, you're gonna get 10 stacks almost immediately. So those are some reasons as to why Conqueror is great on the pick now. For your secondary rune options on Diana, I would be looking to switch it up a lot depending on the game and depending on your team comp and the enemy team comp. comp. If your team comp is really good at team fighting, if that's your win condition, look to take Ultimate Hunter there. Your ultimate is a very good part of your new kit, and whenever you can have that up for a team fight, it's going to be very influential. You can also take the Tenacity there to help you team fight better. If you don't have a great team fight comp though, if you think you're going to be split pushing more throughout the game, you can take the Alacrity instead of the Tenacity, and you can also run with the Ravenous Hunter there to give yourself more sustain in the side lane. For either Triumph or Presence of Mind, I'd look to try out both on the champions, see which one you do prefer. The Presence of Mind is great if you're going for this Ardent Sensor setup on Diana into Proto Belt, because you are going to be lacking mana by going for those two items. You're not going for something like Ludens or Rod of Ages to where you get mana from those items. So Presence of Mind, if you do find yourself like running out of mana in mid to late game fights or in the early game too much, then just run the Presence of Mind instead of the Triumph. But if you find yourself just not really running into mana issues too often, if you want that added health sustain for team fights, then the Triumph is still going to be a great option for you. For your ability maxing on Reworked Diana, it's going to be pretty much exactly the same as to what you do on old Diana. So it's going to be Q max first, W second, and E last. And you're going to be looking to take Q or W at level 1 depending on the matchup. So if you're in a melee matchup, if you can trade at level 1 and play more aggressive, look to take your W there. If you're in a ranged matchup or a matchup to where you're just not able to trade level 1 at all, look to take your Q to help you CS early on. If we talk a little bit about her matchups right now for 9.24, her best matchups are going to be mostly against either very squishy mages, or if you are going up against other melee assassins, she's still going to do pretty good into the Zed pick there, can do well into Akali, into Yasuo. You're going to be building that Zhonya's core a lot of the time on the Diana, so it's going to be pretty difficult once you get that item, and even earlier on in the laning phase as well, for those champions to really do anything against you. Taking a look at 10 of her weaker matches for this patch right now, she does tend to struggle mostly against a lot of niche picks. So you got the Rumble there, Aurelion Sol, Cho'Gath. You don't see those champions being played very much at all, so don't really worry about banning out those champions. But a couple picks there that are played a lot more that she does struggle into. You got the Ahri, the Kassadin, the Fizz. I'd probably be using my ban on Kassadin in this patch right now if you're playing Diana, because the matchup in the early game isn't that great for Diana, and then once it does reach the mid to late game, Kassadin is just going to outscale you pretty hard. If we move on to taking a look at some tips for Diana now, how you should be looking to play her throughout the game. In the early game at the level 3 there, you actually do have a pretty good skirmish now. The old Diana, a lot of the time throughout the early game, you just be looking to farm in lane. You wouldn't really be able to do too much until you hit the level 6. But with the new Diana, look to be following up on your jungler's aggressive plays. You can do a really good job of just getting onto a target and bursting them out pretty quickly with your new E there with that gap closer. So if you do notice your jungler is looking to make aggressive plays, be aware of that and take advantage of it with the new Diana. If you find yourself in a more difficult matchup in the early game, or if you just want some more laning power, don't be afraid to grab an extra Doran's Ring on your first base. You don't have to straight up go into that Ardent Sensor and rush that. If you want some more laning power, grab 1, even 2 Doran's Rings on your first base. You're going to see a lot of high elo Diana players do this, and it's just going to make your laning phase a lot stronger. If you do find yourself in a more difficult matchup in the early game, if you know you can't trade, then just don't take dumb trades in the laning phase and end up falling behind. You hit a great spike on the champion with your Arden and with your level 6 there, so just look to farm up to that. Don't be taking unnecessary bad trades that make you fall behind in the early game, because as long as you can go even until you do hit your 6 and until you do hit your Ardent Sensor, then you're going to hit that great spike and be able to start skirmishing a lot better and take over the game on the pick. Summoner spell wise on Diana, you can either run the teleport or the ignite. I think you should swap it up depending on the game, depending on your matchup. If you're in an easy matchup, if you think you can solo kill in the early game, then look to run that ignite. If you're in a more difficult matchup though, or if you do think you're going to be split pushing in that game, look to run the teleport. Like I touched on briefly earlier, unless you're extremely fed on the new Diana, her one-shot potential is definitely a lot worse than the old Diana. So once you do reach those mid to late game team fights with your new ultimate, you do actually have better team fight potential. You do have the ability to get a nice multi-man ultimate off, get a lot of damage, a lot of CC off in team fights, and allow your team to follow up on that. So that's what you should be looking for a lot of the time in team fights. Unless you are extremely fed and you can just one-shot that carry, look to see when the enemies are grouped and take advantage of that and look to engage. By going the Zhonya's there as your third item, it's going to allow you to stall for your team, and I should have a pretty good example in the background gameplay here of the Diana just diving the backline, using her ultimate, stalling with Zhonya's, and that's how you should be looking to play out a lot of your team fights with the new Diana. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Hopefully this does give you some pretty useful information that you can now use heading into your next rank games with the reworked Diana. If you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.